All right. Well, welcome to Succeeding at ATA. So, we wanted to create at least a little bit of a presentation to kind of go over, the how to navigate the ATA process, any questions, kind of meet the team a little bit, and author, kind of learn how to author better articles, or at least where to get started and where to ask questions. So, with that in mind, let's go ahead and meet everyone on the team because it has expanded recently. So, as you're as most are probably well aware, Adam Bertram is the owner and founder, and he has gracefully allowed us all to partake in the article writing process. And along with that, we have Rochella, who is the blog manager. She does a lot of the day-to-day stuff. She will often be communicating back and forth on deadlines and any other setup tasks, some onboarding things. So typically I'll be doing some of that as well. There's myself, Adam Listek. I'm the writing success manager. Along with that, I also do a lot of the web development for the site. So if things come up with that as well, feel free to reach out to me, or reach out to me for any questions that come up. We have Matt Zandy, who is the advertising manager of ATA. You may not see him as much around just because he does a lot of behind the scenes stuff, but he's very important to the success of ATA for sure. And then Steve Sherry, relatively new addition, but he is an editor and also a prior writer on ATA, and you'll often see him in there because he'll be doing a lot of the editing along with Adam and trying to help craft the articles into the best they can be. All right, so with this, where do we start? When you first get into ATA, what is the process? What do you expect? So there are a few tools that we use. We use Slack, Trello, Notion, and WordPress. The ATA site itself is built on WordPress, so any of the articles ultimately get published there. But most day-to-day operations will be in one of those three tools: Slack, Trello, or Notion. Slack, you're not required to be in there, but it is helpful, especially if you want to participate in more general discussions, get quicker kind of real-time help. So it's useful to be a part of that, but certainly not required. Trello is what we currently use to manage the process of the different stages for any given article. We'll also do some communications in there, but for the most part, it's mostly to help automate the process of article writing and move things along. Notion is what we use as our writing tool. So all of the articles that you do, will ultimately end up in a Notion page that you'll have access to, and then you can write, everything in there, which conveniently our editors and the rest of the staff are able to then go through, make comments, do editing. You have page history. It's a great writing tool, and it really enables us to do that kind of real-time, in-depth editing that really helps craft a great article. So, as a quick overview of the tools, but when you first get in and get started, we need to know a couple things. What are your specialties? And when we talk about specialties, like what kinds of things are good for you to write, be it Azure, AWS, PowerShell, web development technologies, whatever those might be, it helps us to kind of figure out where your strengths lie, what articles might be good for you that you might be interested in. So, once you first get started, we'll ask you about that, and it helps us to know a little bit more about you. At that time too, you can let us know your contact preferences. And when we say that, it's really like email or Slack, or both. It's a way for us to kind of hone our communications to you. And finally, it's a relatively new thing, but we've been asking more what folks' preferred editing experience is. And really what this is an attempt that when we're editing your article, since we do have, pretty high standards, and we try to craft a very specific article, we sometimes folks are not as interested in the back and forth. If they submit an article and want to essentially say, you know what, I'm pretty happy with where this is, but I know to fit this to the ATA standards, you might have to do a bunch more to it, but that's fine, and I don't really need to know. Well, you can let us know that, and we'll pretty much take it from there. If you really want to get into, the granular steps, all of the different questions and stuff, we're happy to help you with that as well. And you can let us know what your best method or route of editing is. So after, kind of the setup stuff, before we can get you published on, with your first article published on the ATA site, we need to get you quickly set up in Gravatar. And so what that really means is you're creating a WordPress.com account, you're registering with Gravatar to link that account, and you're adding your image. That email that you use for that will be the same one that you use for ATA. And because of that, your picture, your headshot picture, whatever image you choose, will come in automatically. And plus, any other site that you happen to be out using your WordPress account on throughout the web will also pull in that Gravatar image. It's a quick, easy way to universally make it available. And so we need that to set up your profile as well. And then the final real setup thing is just once you get your WordPress logon for the ATA site, jump on, enter in your bio, a little bit about you, kind of write through what you want to tell the world. And once you do that, it doesn't have to be super in depth, but a little blurb about yourself. And then at the end, we have a ton of documentation online. You can read up all about ATA, kind of the standards, what we have for example articles, process questions, any of that stuff. So there are a number of steps to getting started, but once you get through them, it's pretty easy overall, and we're here to help. So any questions you might end up having, just feel free to ask myself or any of us on Slack or through email, and we'll happily get you going. So the next big question is, all right, I need to start writing an article. What do I do? So we have a very defined workflow, and this overview image kind of gives you a quick view into what that process looks like. Now, don't worry, it may look a little more complicated than it really is in terms of what you might see, your experience of it. But really, what it comes down to is first you choose a topic. What are you going to write about? And we've got a ton of pre-approved topics that, when we say pre-approved, they've been looked at, vetted that, the SEO content or the keywords that we're looking for are going to be really good for the site and that we think people are going to be really interested in. And so those you can just assign yourself as a member, and it will immediately go over to the writer outline, which is a relatively new step to kind of help hone exactly what you're going to write about first before really diving into it. If for some reason, you have an article idea you want to write, but it's not on the pre-approved topic list, well, you can pitch your own topic. And by doing that, you're really creating a new card in that topic review stage. You're adding a title, assigning yourself as a member, and entering a description. When you do that, though, it will jump on over to that held topic review, and it will be a spot for us to kind of look at to make sure that this is an article that makes sense to write for ATA, that we don't have any questions on, like what the scope looks like, any of that kind of stuff. But once all that, the article topic itself is approved and moved on, it'll jump over to that writer outline. And when it does that, what we're looking for is a way to kind of write down exactly like a bullet point almost what you think the main headers or the topics of a given article will be. And within there too, we are interested in trying to figure out what the reader intent or the searcher intent is. And we'll touch on this a little bit later, but the idea of who's coming in to read, this article, why are they there? What is their skill level? And by quickly kind of looking at what that might be and outlining it, it will help you craft that article later on so that there's not as much back and forth, and it makes it easier on you. So once the outline's done, runs over to writer draft. And what that really means is it's in your hands. You're writing the article. And each of these little yellow circles there is the max number of days that this card should stay in that step. And you might notice that for the writer draft, it's 14. So what this really means is you have 2 weeks or so to write the article and send it on over to the next step, which is technical review. Now, that's a step that I do where it's a quick look into the article, say, is there any real technical questions regarding the technologies or the steps within there that might cause questions or we're not sure about. But that's a real quick review that ultimately sends it on over to developmental editing. And what that stage is that's our editors. They're jumping in, they're going through the article, making questions, making revisions, making any of that stuff. And anytime that they finish one round of that and they might have some questions or anything, they'll send it on over to the writer updates needed, where you'll get an email. And when you get that email, it's just a chance to go and say, okay, there's questions, there's things I have to resolve before we can get this to the next process. You have 7 days to kind of resolve through those issues. And once you're done, send it back over to developmental editing and they'll do another pass at it. They may or may not, have any other questions, or they may just finish up the editing, which at that point it heads on over to SEO review and a couple other processes and ultimately to publishing. So it may look complicated, but it's a pretty straightforward step-by-step process. And it's really designed to help hone an article exactly to what you're looking to do. So just to kind of recap, pick a topic, pitch your own, submit an outline to that writer outline stage, start writing. Once that's written, send over to technical review. That article is then sent to developmental editing. And really, after editing, it's on to scheduling and publishing. So it's a process that hopefully doesn't, get in your way. And if you have any questions, just let us know. But it will help us keep organized, help you keep organized, and know exactly at what stage, your article's at. So one thing that does come up sometimes is, how do I find topics to write, or how do I look through that pre-approved topics list? There are a lot of cards in there and a lot of ideas. So one thing you can do is, if you actually click on within Trello, the show menu in the upper right, you can actually do a search through the cards, which will help you filter them, because we label all the cards. For example, I show that Azure, there's 2 labels there, Azure Storage and Azure DevOps, and there are 53 cards that get filtered in with the pre-approved ideas. So there is a lot there. We may not have all the topics you're interested in or looking for, and in that case, you can certainly pitch your own. But it is far quicker to choose from the pre-approved ideas list, because there is just a lot. There's been a lot of time and effort put into making sure that those are good articles and ideas to write. And so it's a quicker process to get started. There are also a number of different ways to search within Trello. You can use the main bar as well, but this is a quick and easy way to look through it. So after we've kind of gone over what the process looks like, well, you got to write the article. So there's a lot to writing articles, but some of the questions that we've been, trying to think about as, how do you write a good article, especially in the format that ATA has? One of the ways that we've kind of thought about this is thinking about who is the reader, and then what is their intent. So this idea of a persona of the reader, who is the person coming to this? What is their skill level? If you think of someone like a how-to article, how to use Azure functions, for example, that type of person coming in may have been tasked by their boss to figure out, well, hey, we've got access to Azure functions. We want to start using them. So they got to start somewhere. Maybe they have a familiarity with systems a bit, but not much in the Azure environment. Maybe they've done some PowerShell, maybe not. But you might be able to assume that for the most part, they're probably a system administrator and they have at least a passing familiarity. Well, by thinking through that, you've already kind of helped yourself scope exactly what the base level of knowledge of that article probably will be. And that'll help you so that you're not diving too far into the getting started or real low level stuff and make some assumptions. And then the next question is really, what is their intent? Oftentimes there's a specific post keyword assigned to each article. And by using that, that's really what the people who are searching are most likely using to get there. So that will help kind of craft what their intent is. What is the thought process behind getting there? And that will help you decide what topics do you actually need to cover within the article. So once you've kind of decided what you're doing that, and this will help craft your outline. And then once you're on to the actual writing, a couple notes that we have that kind of help as you're going through the article is oftentimes what we're really trying to get at is, directly state what you're doing. Like, click this button and then why are you doing this? And that might be because it allows you to do something, whereas you want to click this to cause an action to happen and then why. And so poor example probably there, but the idea though is that you're really trying to have a direct action and then explain a little bit more about why that might be. You're also trying to connect each section fluidly. You're guiding the writer, and one of the things that Adam's told me is, think about this as you're assisting over someone's shoulder. We're trying to do it in such a way where you are describing in a kind of a friendly format, a conversational format, and you want to kind of let the whole article flow. And so a good way to think about that is, you're guiding this person through the process of whatever you're trying to explain. And then a couple other notes that come up oftentimes is, make sure you have some image captions on there. Use numbered and unordered lists. That'll help break up the content and make it flow a little better. And then watch paragraph length, because we try to keep it around 300 words. These things help a lot. There's a bunch of other little notes, but really these are the the top level things that will help kind of keep your article pretty close to what we're looking for.
Yeah, I do want to say that I will be doing a lot. I know this is probably by far and away the most time consuming and probably the issue that a lot of people deal with, the hardest part of it. I do want to say I'm actually working on a course that I'm going to that I'm going to actually be presenting kind of once a week here for a while, to kind of breaking down the whole thought process and try to really help people make it a lot easier, make it kind of intuition or not second guess, but more of a, you kind of have to keep all these mental things in your head as you're writing. So I'm going to be, kind of breaking that down and trying to give some people some good tips on that on our weekly meetings.
Yeah, no, that will be perfect, I think. And so much like this is a Friday type of meeting, that will kind of follow along. I think that's the idea, right? Where it's every Friday.
Yeah, I would think. I mean, maybe we get some every now and then, but for the most part, I just think we just keep a weekly time slot.
Perfect. All right. Yeah. Well, far better explained than I'm doing here. This is a quick overview, but really getting in depth and figuring that out will help. All right. Jumping forward, a couple common editing questions that come up. Notion is great for when you're actually doing the editing, but one of the things that happens is sometimes people see notifications in Notion itself while an editor is going through it. It's best just to wait for the email, and that email comes when the article itself is moved to the writer updates needed. And the reason is, it just means that you're not jumping in there and changing things while someone's, editing. It kind of keeps the flow a little bit easier. So even though great, you're being proactive, but it does help a little bit, just kind of wait for that email and then jump into it. We may also sometimes use Trello to notify you for various things or questions, though most editing questions do come through Notion itself, either highlighting a section to look at or, as a kind of more overall general set of questions. And if you have any questions about a specific section that's been edited, about a notice about things within there, ask, either ask the editor or ask myself or ask Adam. I mean, we're here to help you if there are those types of questions, especially if you're not sure or you have an opinion that, maybe it is best to keep this in, that's okay. Let us know. And so the kind of final part, section here is that publication and promotion. The way that we do it, we have scheduled, articles are scheduled to be published on a set schedule. So we try to make sure that we've got 7 articles a week. And to do that, we are trying to move things along and, think towards the future, what this will be. So it's important to us that, once you commit to one, you're able to meet that. We understand that things happen, just, keep us informed and let us know. But the best to your ability, try to hit those times. That would be great. Once it's out there, feel free to promote it. Obviously, we're not trying to spam anything, but, we'll put out a tweet. You can retweet that or just share the post in general. But we encourage you to promote your work and build your portfolio. And then sometimes questions around payments, but the payments are done on a schedule and they're typically 4 to 5 days after publishing and sent to the PayPal email we have for you. If you have any questions, once again, reach out. So in the end, you can find myself on Slack, Adam Listek, or email me at adam.listek@adamtheautomator.com anytime. And I'll do my best to help. And if I can't get the answer to you right there, I'll find out. So with that in mind, kind of wraps up this short presentation, but I wanted to open the floor to anyone else on here with any questions. And with that, are there any questions?
Nobody?
It's not that many people on it. Shanky, what's up? I might have to unmute.
Maybe I can ask to unmute.
Are you able to hear me?
Yep, we can hear you now.
Okay, thank you. So Adam, I have a question. So basically, when I see in Notion, when I write any article, so I am asked to not highlight any word like background colors, right? But after editors do any kind of update, I see the red color word, right? That is like, is it a tagging or something? Or actually, I wanted to understand that.
So when you're editing in Notion itself, you're talking about the replies and trying to comment back on those?
So basically, suppose there is a word Windows, right? So when I highlight that word like gray color or maybe any other color, so I was asked that don't do that. Don't highlight any word. Just use a normal text. But when editor comes back, they actually use that colored text with those words. So are they tagged somewhere or something like that?
Oh, are you talking about like highlighting, like the highlight colors?
Yes. Can I share my screen so that I can make you understand in better way?
Yeah, I think you can share.
Yeah, that might be easiest. I have an idea what you're talking about, but always good to show and tell.
Okay. So here, if you see this word, right, that's tag, right?
Okay.
So when I write I am not supposed to do it like this, right? I am supposed
Okay,
to
I know what
rewrite
you're
next.
talking about already, Shanky. What that is code formatting. So, like, whenever you write your text, anything, any like a command that you run in the shell or a piece of code that's in the paragraph text like that, that should be code formatted like that. So you just highlight it, hit Command or Control K, and that'll format it. I
Okay.
think you were actually changing the color of the text, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, because I generally do it from here.
Yeah,
Text
don't do
color
that. Make it
variant.
as code.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like highlight one of those anything there,
Mm-hmm.
and then
Okay.
hit Control K.
I think it's Control E. I think it's Control
Oh,
E.
Oh, I'm sorry, Control E. Yeah, Adam's right. Try Control E. Yeah,
oh,
like
okay,
that.
okay. So
Because when
we
it
are
does
allowed to
that,
do that.
that formats it right, and then that when it brings over correctly when it goes in WordPress.
Yeah. And
Okay, so we are allowed to do that, or only editors can do that?
oh yeah, you can do that. I mean, yeah,
Okay.
if you've got inline code, absolutely. I mean, because ultimately we're gonna have to do the same. So I mean, it certainly helps to do that kind of thing. The other thing is too, if you don't remember the key sequence, when you highlight it, you'll see a little like code block thing, the little 2 carets. You can click that too, and it'll do the same thing. But yeah, by all means, absolutely. So,
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
great. All right, so I think Cisco, you had a question, but how long should a contributor strive to go from soup to nuts, aka research, drafting, editing, and publishing? So that,
Maybe a
well,
month, 3 weeks,
yeah,
maybe
3
3
weeks would
weeks, probably.
yeah, because it's 14 days basically for, if you're taking the whole time, then it's 14 days from when you start writing. There may be a few days before that though, when you've gotten the topic or you've picked the top. Let's say it's pre-approved. You've taken that topic, you've maybe done the outline and the intent in a day, which I mean that part shouldn't be pretty quick. And then you're writing it, but depending on how much back and forth or how much editing might be there, it could take a little bit longer. And then you do have up to 7 days to get back to finish your updates. Ideally, you're not taking the whole 7 days, but depending on the amount of edits, we can understand why it might take a little bit longer. So I think in an ideal world, it's probably about 3 weeks total. Could go up to a month, though. I could see if you've got 2 full rounds of editing.
I mean, I guess if it's like perfect, if it goes through like the fastest it possibly can, and you get it within, I don't know, get it within a couple days once it goes into draft. I mean, maybe 2 weeks, but that's really, really cutting it.
Yeah, and I guess I was more talking about the total length. If you took the whole time and it was like 2 full rounds of editing, probably about a month. If you want to try to crank one out as fast as possible, you're probably looking at, let's say you got it done in a week, and and then you basically said, you know what, edit as whatever you want, and there wasn't any real questions. It might be done in 2 weeks. It's possible to do that. I mean, depends on how fast you write, and depends on how much you want to be involved in the editing process as well.
True, and you can, if you get impatient, you can always pitch another one, start on multiples at the same time.
Yeah, just the big key with that is basically don't stretch yourself too thin. I mean, for us, it's important that we're trying to hit those 2-week windows, because we're trying to schedule out posts to the future. But as I said, things happen. Like I was talking to another writer, and his keyboard died. It happens, but just let us know, because life gets in the way, and that's okay. We just want to be informed. So I think the rest of us on this call are pretty much all part of ATA.
Cisco said, I know 1,500 words, depending on writing muscles, might take longer than 3 weeks, and I hate to have other editors taking most of the load, but I can also be a blocker due to life. Yeah, I mean,
depends on the article.
Yeah, it does. It really depends on the article, and it really depends on how close we are with expectations. Like if if you submit something that's just, perfect and it doesn't require much editing at all, I can just soar through, but that's not typically the case.
Yeah. But if it's a how-to of a topic that's not very in-depth, you might be able to power through that pretty quick. Someone had an article about moving a OneDrive folder. It's not terribly technically challenging. Some of it's just figuring out what's the best way to structure it, but something like that is not going to take you as much research time and investigation as something like, how do I create a Terraform script for X? There might be more involved in that kind of process. So 1,500 words is not necessarily a bellwether of how hard an article is, I would say.
One thing I just thought about that I want to make myself a note of. I'm wondering if it'd be helpful that if we had on the cards, like on the pre-approved idea cards, like a estimated duration or something like that, or some way to kind of give people an idea of how hard or how in depth that article would be. I know the ultimate guides are supposed to be like that, but maybe that for all of them. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it'd be helpful. I just think it'd be hard to estimate.
Yeah, I know.
What takes you a certain amount of time or myself might not take someone else a totally different amount of time. I realize it's an estimate, but I also wouldn't want to necessarily get someone's hopes up to say or I guess knock down because this was only supposed to take me 3 hours and I spent 2 days, because I didn't know as much about the topic. Because I think some folks take some of them to kind of learn as they're going. I know I did from time to time. I know I want to learn more about this and I can learn quick. So, I'll jump on it. But, that might influence the amount of time taken.
True.
Adam, I have one more question. Can I ask? Mm-hmm. So basically, I see that on the ATA side, I see a bullet point 8 that you will see the traffic stats of your own blog. So, but when I go to WordPress, I'm unable to see those stats basically. So I just wanted to know how I am writing, if my articles are better than others, or how can I make those visitors come and see those? They can get tracked to my blog post. So I don't have access to that.
Gotcha. So I noticed that. I saw that too the other day. We've created a dashboard for that to kind of get some traffic stats about where you're at. Adam and I can get that over to you, a link to it.
Was that dashboard not work for everyone?
I don't know if everyone knows about it.
Oh.
So we'll get that over to you. Good question though. I see what you did. That number 8, that's on the get started writing for ATA. And so, yeah.
Here you go. I'll just put the link in Zoom for now. I'll put it in Slack actually.
Yeah. But basically it's just a quick dashboard to kind of show you the traffic stats of the various articles.
Yeah, just I wanted to check for mine only so that I can understand. So that I can understand if I'm improving in terms of writing and people are liking that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It always helps to know. I wouldn't get discouraged by any stats too. I've had plenty of articles that I've written that don't necessarily perform all that well, one reason or another, and that's fine. We're trying to build up that traffic, and you never know. Sometimes an article hits at the right moment, and we'll just jump up.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, traffic is not an indicator of quality. Traffic is an indicator of, sure, you have to have quality, but for mostly the part, it's all about SEO, search engine traffic, of how good that myself and Chella are doing, trying to optimize the blog as much as possible based on a keyword that has traffic in the first place. I mean, yeah, traffic, especially with our traffic, is just, it's almost 90% Google. So it's all about how high it ranks in Google, not necessarily the quality of it.
Exactly.
Yeah, but what it can help is like suppose if a blog is having the most visitors, then we can take that particular topic and pitch in for next blog post. That may be helpful.
Yeah, that's a good point. If you can come up with different, kind of like side topics off of that, yeah, that would probably be good, a good way to come up with new topics.
Yes, yes. Because people might be seeing that topic most, so we can pitch in similar topic to what people are like getting attracted to, like technology wise.
Yep, I agree.
Good question. All right, and any other questions at the moment? Any comments or things for us? Cool. Matt, Steve, anything you want to add?
No, nothing specifically from me. I think, as everyone probably knows, I'm fairly new to the developmental editing side of things. I'm enjoying the process so far and working with the writers. So I suppose really just thank you to everybody for the effort that everyone's putting in, and looking forward to continuing to work with everybody.
Absolutely. Well, I am super appreciative that you are here, Steve. Let me tell you, I think you're doing a great job, and as a far better editor than I am.
I don't know about that. Don't worry. Still need fresh into it.
Well, I find my role as the whatever we're calling it now, the WSM, as a better suited for me.
Excellent. Good stuff.
I knew I'd find some good role for you.
I've bounced around a lot of roles in time, and it seems like I do end up on this type of role a lot.
Everyone just loves Adam Listek, though.
I'm personable. That's
personable.
I hope I am.
That's true.
You are. Yeah.
Matt, anything?
Nothing from me. Thank you.
Wow. I just figure